My name is Steven, the Lightspeed, and this is going to be my official review of the K2 Plus from Creality. And in this video, I'm going to tell you what I like about this printer, what I absolutely can't stand about this printer, and why you should probably wait if you're thinking about buying one. All right, let's get started. At first glance, looking at the Creality K2 Plus, it is a behemoth of a printer. This printer is an aluminum die-cast frame, and frankly, it's like no other printer I have ever seen before. This composite frame is very sturdy, very rigid, and I think this attributes a lot of the print quality to the frame. Unlike years past where Creality would use like aluminum profiles or things like that, this time they went right back to the drawing board and developed something from scratch. And my first impression of this, and still my impression today, is that this is an amazing printer. Some of the things that I love about this printer, besides the frame obviously, is the fact that it is a 350 by 350 by 350. This is a print that I did on the printer. Ignore the waviness, that was my fault. But this is basically what a spool of filament looks like inside of that print volume. Absolutely massive. This printer boasts a bunch of quote-unquote smart features, and in this video I'm going to go over all the smart features that I could find on their website and their other literature that came with the printer, and talk about if they're real or not. What I mean by real is a lot of times companies make things sound better than they are, and I don't think Creality is any exception to that. The K2 Plus boasts a system that gets you a perfect layer every time. Now, for me, this has been mostly true. However, I have had a few that are a little iffy, like that big print I just showed you. It is not perfect. The way the Creality K2 does its bed leveling is it uses the nozzle as the sensor, and then there's a strain gauge in the tool head. Inside of here also is a bunch of other sensors for input shaping, etc. And so basically what it does is it uses the tool head to prime the filament, cools the filament off, and then it does a full bed leveling routine. And as far as I know, it's about as good as any system I've seen, including the Bambu Lab system. The printer says it has an air purifier, their words, not mine. And you can see right here in the back of this printer that there is some fans back here that have activated charcoal like filters on them. Let me see if I can get one of these out. What it is, they're little charcoal filters, and basically there's just a fan sitting behind it. Is this an air purifier? I don't think so. I don't think it would pass any laboratory tests, if I'm being honest. I think calling it an air purifier is kind of setting themselves up for failure. What it does do is it reduces some of the smells, some of the VOCs probably that are, put into the air while you're printing. And it's the same as Bambu, basically. The only difference here is there are two of these. So you have twice the filtering, I guess. So air purifier. Let's talk about tool head tramming, and there's been a big debate on this printer talking about the Z or the Z system on this printer. A lot of people were giving Creality a lot of guff because they only had 2 lead screws, whereas like a Bambu Lab printer, for example, has 3 lead screws. Well, let me tell you why I think this is a better system than Bambu Lab and why the 3 lead screws is kind of stupid. The 3 lead screws originally came from, 3 or 4 lead screws originally came from the Railcore, which was a printer, a Core XY printer, for its day extremely advanced 3D printer, that used 4 motors and 4 lead screws to tram the bed to the tool head. So you could basically dance the bed around like this, and then the tool head would go boop, 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 and the bed would go choop, and it would be perfect. Well, when Bambu Lab made their printer, they thought, well, hey, 3 lead screws, that's what Core XY printers have. So they also did 3 lead screws. Now, did they do it because they were thinking they were going to trick everybody? I don't know. Did they do it for stability reasons? Maybe. But all I know is 3 lead screws on the Bambu Lab printers doesn't make any sense, nor did it on the Creality K1 series, because in order for those 3 lead screws to be able to do true tramming to the tool head, you have to have 3 motors on them also. In the case of the K1 and the Bambu Lab printer, they're belted on the bottom, so it makes absolutely no sense. The Creality K2 Plus here has 2 independent lead screws, 2 independent motors, and 2 independent motor drivers. So the printer is able to control each one of these lead screws independently of each other. And that is important when you're trying to adjust for skew in the x-axis here. On all four corners are these massive 12mm rods and sealed bearings. I prefer these over linear rails in my personal opinion because they're easier. You don't have to service these as much, and they just work really, really well, and they're super consistent. By the way, these are all serviceable. You can actually remove these and replace them, including the bearings. Bambu, take some notes. Apparently, this printer has automatic belt tensioning, and I don't know. It says that it has some kind of sensor that determines the tension on the belt. Okay. I don't know if you have to adjust it manually or be involved with it at all, but the way they make it sound is that it's keeping the perfect belt tension at all times. That may or may not be true. I'm not really sure. All I know is in their wiki, they do have a belt tensioning procedure and a little model you can print to test the belt tension. So if that's true, it's pretty innovative and pretty cool. Flow calibrations. Yeah, so this is a flow calibration test right here. So it prints this right over here on the side of the bed right here. And basically it uses its camera. So it uses those cameras right there. Take a look at these purge lines that it's making and adjust the flow rate accordingly. It also does, for pressure advance, it does a little squiggly line over here. My experience with it, is it working, is it not working? I don't know. It seems like it's working. Here's the downside. It takes about 10 minutes to start a print on this. If you set a print on this, you might as well go get a cup of coffee, go to the bathroom, call your grandma, because it takes forever for a print to start on this. I don't know what they can do about it, but the process that they use for pressure advance and flow calibration and bed leveling is extremely slow, ridiculously slow. So you can skip the calibration. You don't have to do it every time. But on a print this big, I would be scared to do that. So you be the judge. Filament detection. It's got filament runout sensors in the tool head, which is exactly where they should be. If you didn't know, that's where they should be. Some printers in today's day and age are still using end-stop limit switches like the K1 did. The K1 had a limit switch right up here at the back. I hated that thing. This is a much welcomed improvement, in my opinion. It's in the tool head right where it should be. The tool head, speaking of the tool head, this says that it can go up to 350 degrees. So 350 degrees allows you to do things like nylon, PEEK, and many other materials that are not really, you're not really able to do even on an X1 carbon. So 350 degrees is pretty cool if you want to do some high temp industrial filaments. I mentioned the heat bed before, the Z system. I love this bed. There is no give or wiggle in this bed at all. This bed is probably one of the most solid bed surfaces that I've seen on any printer. On my Bambu Labs, there's always a little bit of play in it, and this thing has zero play in it. So I'm really impressed with this bed system, the Z system. I think they did a really good job on it. One of the main features of this printer is the fact that it has a 350 degree hot end in it, but it also has a heated build volume, and that is not something you see every day. I know that Cheedy or Keedy or whoever they are, they do have heated active heated build chambers. Well, now so does the Creality. So right here is the heater, and if we turn the heater on the screen, we can click this little button right here. We can click the button right here, and I think we can go as high as 60 degrees. And basically what happens is it will start right there. It starts pushing heat out right at you. So pretty dang cool. Definitely great for large prints, but really good for nylons, PETGs, ABSs, all that kind of stuff. If you're printing large ABS and large nylon prints, you need to have a heated build chamber. Just absolutely a must. One of my favorite things about this printer is that Creality broke the mold and finally stopped copying Bambu Lab and putting the filament on the back of the fucking printer. Finally, we have the filament holder on the side of the printer where it is intended to be all along. Bambu Lab started this stupid trend, and all these other companies started following suit. And I gotta tell you, I could not be, this was like my favorite thing, like hell yes. It's also got an NFC chip reader in it if you use Creality filament. I also think it's programmable, so you might be able to add other NFC chips if you want to add that to your filament. Right here is a USB stick. It's kind of a weird and precarious place for that. port because it's kind of sticking off the side, but whatever. It should have been down here, probably down in the front, but who knows. So Bambu Lab has a single auxiliary cooling fan, and when this came out, they were really the first person to do this. This is Creality's solution. Is they started using aux fans in the K1, also the auxiliary fans, and this printer actually has 2 of them, so that is pretty cool. This eliminates you getting more cooling from one side or the other, and these work extremely well because you don't have to run both of these fans at max speed. You can actually run them at a reduced speed. So let me tell you about some of the bad things that I don't like about this printer. If you watch me on TikTok, you know I am not a fan of this screen. This is a K1 screen. On this $1,299 printer, they slapped a K1 screen on it. Does it work? Yes. Is it great? It's okay. Is it as good as a Bambu Lab screen? Absolutely not. This thing is not responsive. It's kind of slow to the touch. It's hard to use. It's hard to read. It looks absolutely tiny on this printer. I just think that they could have done something more better for sure, and took a page from the FL Sun S1 Pro, my personal opinion. There's a lot of spelling errors and omissions on the screen, the firmware, and the slicer, as per usual with Creality. I just think it's kind of it doesn't really invoke a lot of confidence. If you just spent $1,299 on a printer or $1,499 with the CFS, it's like their attention to detail is not there. The biggest issue for me with this printer, and the reason that I would tell you not to buy this printer, is because of the slicer. The Orca slicer is the best slicer on the market. Everybody uses it. It's based off of Bambu Studio, and it's kind of become the dominant slicer in 3D printing. Everybody does a skin version of it, like FL Sun has FL Sun Slicer, and eCubic has a version, Creality has a version, etc. The Creality version is absolutely unusable. I'm going to show it to you here in a second. It's absolutely one of the biggest pieces of garbage I've ever seen given to customers that just spent $1,299 and then, oh, here's your slicer that you have to use, by the way. You have to use it because the firmware is locked down on this. So the only way that you can actually get the prints to send wirelessly is you have to go through their Creality cloud, which you have to use Creality Print. And I know people in the comments are going to say, well, what about Orca Slicer? Yeah, you can use Orca Slicer, and you can even get access to the device tab. However, you still cannot send prints. At least I can't on my Macintosh. And I've had many people try to help me figure it out. It does not work. It does not work. Plain and simple. So this $1,299 printer, that is a great printer, you have to use their horrible slicer that is basically, the only way I can describe it to you is they took Orca Slicer and they tried to make it look and feel like Cura, and Cura sucks. Now, Chinese people and the 3D printing companies, they love Cura. They've always loved Cura. They wanted to hold on to Cura until its dying breath. But now that Orca Print is, they can't ignore the fact that Orca Slicer is absolutely dominating, right? It's the new standard. And companies like FL Sun have figured it out. FL Sun has an Orca Slicer skin that works perfectly, right? You even have access to the app. Anycubic did the same thing. You have access to the app. So you have all the cloud functionality built into it, just like Bambu, and it all works just like Orca Slicer should work. Now, Creality didn't want to do that. They wanted to make theirs unique and give their customers a, back at home feel and give them the Cura feel. It sucks. It's absolutely the biggest piece of garbage I've ever seen. Now, you can get around it, use Orca Slicer and transfer over USB. That's up to you. My point is, I think it's a piece of shit, and it would prevent me, knowing what I know today, I would not have bought this printer because of it. Because I had intended on buying the CFS unit, the multicolor unit. Now knowing what I know, there's no way I'm going to subject myself to doing multicolor in a slicer that is so choppy. It is so, it runs like garbage. And I have a brand new $5,000 Macintosh. I don't want to hear about computers. I'm just telling you, their slicer is total garbage bullshit. Just is. Great printer, shit slicer. So this is Creality Print. This is the app. And to my surprise, this thing is fantastic. It actually works really, really good. I'm super happy with this. Yeah, the slicer or the app works great. You can start and stop and view your prints from anywhere in the world. You can print from the cloud or you can print from the local files on it. They did a really good job on this app. The app is really good. Um, I I don't like their models because there is a lot of stolen models in here. There just is. There's a lot of my stolen models in here, and I don't like that. So I choose not to support them. But the workbench part is good. The app for the printer is good. The camera on this printer is absolutely fantastic and super high quality, great frame rate, totally usable. They did a really good job on that. So let me just recap one more time, and I know I keep saying it. The slicer sucks, the printer's great, the app on the phone is great. I don't want to take away from anything that the printer is. The frame is one of the best, coolest frames I've ever seen. Super solid, super rigid, and that's probably why we get such high quality prints out of this. Is it the fastest printer I've ever seen? No. The FL Sun S1 Pro beats this by a factor of 2. But this printer allows you to do large items at pretty high speed, and you get great quality out of it. You can't really ask for more than that. The only thing is the interface, the parts that you touch and feel and have to spend a lot of time in, like the slicer, are absolutely unusable in my personal opinion. So this one is 124% scale of this model. This one is 145, okay? 145%, 124%. These are representative of the two build volumes. Obviously, the FL Sun has much higher build volume. The K2 Plus has a much wider build volume, right? 350 square instead of round. So you can print bigger things on it from that perspective, X and Y. But these are representative of the two build volumes side by side. Same layer height, same top and bottom layers, same infill, same everything, stock settings in the slicer. This print right here on the SL or on the FL Sun S1 Pro took under 7 hours to complete. This print, which is also 124%, not 145%, much smaller, took almost 12 hours. The prints look virtually identical, but my point in telling you this is that if I were to spend $12.99 on a printer today and I did not care about multicolor, this printer would be the printer I would buy. Hands down. Filament dryer on the top, and this thing is just faster. This thing is like the Lamborghini of 3D printers. And the print quality is outstanding. The build volume is massive. I don't know how you can go wrong with this printer. I think the K2 Plus is a great printer, but for me, the slicer is just the worst. So in order to show you what I'm talking about, I need to show you the slicer. And this is Creality print in all its glory. I want you to notice the boxes I'm drawing. Yeah, that is my left mouse button that I'm used to having to move my plate back and forth, left or right, etc. And in Creality print, all it does is it draws boxes. And I've tried every key on the keyboard in combination. Yes, I have a Mac. It's a brand new Mac. Miss me with that stuff. It just doesn't work. Let me show you how it does work. So this is Orca Print or Orca Slicer. And you can see it when I have my left mouse button down. It goes anywhere I want. Forward, backwards, left, and right. I can pan, push, pull, and everything works absolutely flawlessly. And the right button does all the spin arounds and the spin ups and all that kind of stuff. I don't know what the technical terms are, but the Creality print does not do this. It does have the right button that'll make it rotate and spin up and down, but the left button does nothing more than draw annoying little boxes on my screen, and I cannot stand it. It is very clear to me that they went through a lot of effort to make this feel like Cura. They moved all the fields to the right side of the screen. They made all those little the menus hard to find, and then when you hover your key over or your mouse over, you get large descriptions of what each thing does. It's all fine and good for familiarity with the old Cura, but this thing is like it's going to give me a seizure. I'm going to show you here in a second. The screen is flickering. It's jerky. It's not smooth. Um,
Things are hard to find. It's not intuitive. It's just really one of the. I'm really disappointed if you haven't known by now, but I am super like annoyed by this slicer. If I could have just used Orca slicer like I can with my FL Sun and my Anycubic printer, I would have been totally happy. But no, that is not meant to be. So I'm going to load a model up here. This is the Statue of Liberty that I just showed you. And I'm going to show you one other extremely annoying thing with this. I load the model up, and basically one of the annoying features about this is I can't, if I miss the plate, I have to zoom out and then zoom back in, zoom out and zoom back in. And you see me do this a bunch of different times. But the other big issue with it is I can't delete anything. I cannot delete the model by hitting the delete key or the backspace key on my keyboard. Now, in Orca Slicer, obviously I can do that. I can't, you can't do that in Crowdy Print. You have to right click on the model, and you have to right click, right click, right click, right click until it finally takes off or like engages. And then finally it gives you a menu where you can actually uh get the delete menu. But yeah, and it's in a menu. So you have to right click, select delete model. It's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Um, but yeah, navigating this thing is like seriously going to give me a seizure. I'm not even joking. It's flickering, it's jerky, it's hard to look at. It's making me nauseous just doing this. But I want you to see how much speed control you have on the zoom with Orca Slicer. It is buttery smooth. It's always been buttery smooth. And Creality Print like took the buttery. They left the butter out of the refrigerator, if you will, for lack of a better term. Now this is FL Sun. This is what Creality should have did. They have cloud service. They have an app. All the same things Creality has, but with FL Sun Print. They made it where you log into your FL Sun account and you have access to all your printers. Even my V400 is accessible on this, and it works beautifully. They didn't change anything, so I don't want to go use Orca Slicer with my FL Sun printers because my FL Sun print slicer is Orca Slicer. If that makes any sense to you, so if they would have made the slicer good enough, Creality Print like Orca Slicer, I wouldn't care. I'd be like, oh, cool, you know. But it's not. It's a total rework. They went too deep into the skinning process, and unfortunately, the stuff that they built on top of Orca Print has just made it extremely annoying, in my opinion. So, anyways, I hope you get my point by now. Like I said, for $12.99. Some people are going to say, hey, you're overreacting, right? I'm not overreacting, guys. It's $1,299 for a printer, okay? $14.99 with the four color CFS option. I am not overreacting. We need to stop saying that because the minute we start softballing all these issues, Creality goes, oh, it's okay. It's okay. We can focus all of our energy on the printer and nothing on the user interface or the user experience, right? And it's just okay because people are going to keep buying our printers. But you're Creality, I got bad news for you. You're at a price point now that is no longer going to be accepted. I can't in Creality Print, I can't even bring a model in and have it merged together. Okay. So Bamboo Studio, Orca Slicer, all does the same thing. You bring in a model with two parts. It would you like to merge this model as a singular model? Yes. Yes, I would. Or no, I wouldn't. In Crowdy Print, can't do that. Can't do that. Nope. It comes in two different pieces. Okay. And then you have to figure out how to try to align it, assemble it, or whatever you want to call it. It's just nonsense. At $12.99, we need to quit making excuses for these people. They are taking our money. They need to put more time into the slicer. Or even better yet, I want to just throw this out there. Creality, don't put any time into the slicer. Stop putting money into the slicer. Reach out to Soft Fever, the guy who created Orca Slicer, pay him a $500,000 a year and have him develop the slicer for you so that you have a good piece of software to go with your printer so you can actually compete with Bambu Lab. Because as long as you're doing this shit, you are never going to win. You're never going to win. I don't care how good the printer is. As long as the interface is this slicer, you are never going to win. Thanks for watching, everybody. Links down below. I am not trying to sell you K2 printers. I am trying to sell you FL Sun S1 Pro printers, though. Affiliate links down below if you'd like to get one of those. Thanks for watching, everybody. Mucho gracias, and I'll see you guys on the next one.